All right, all right. Good morning, good day, depending on when somebody's seeing this. It is Legally Blind, journal number 20 this morning, and I'm happy to say that the visual acuity still hasn't changed. I don't know how many weeks we're pushing up on now, but happy that we're holding steady at about 15 inches visual acuity where I can read it if it's the right height, big size, and whatnot. So jumping right in, I'm going to talk a little bit this morning about what would a guide dog do for me, and what concerns could it overcome, as well as what possible downsides could I see for that. And then we'll jump in and talk through some of the pictures that we got going on the screen. And then from there, we'll kind of just see where things are going next. Really excited this week. All that technology is coming in, so I can start getting used to that and get it set up before my next conference, and as well as in my daily work life and whatnot. So really, some cool stuff coming with that. So, jumping right in, the question here is, what would the guide dog do for me, and what concerns could it overcome? Well, first and foremost would be identifying snakes. That's kind of a big one because, the difference between a stake and a stick is whether or not it moves or makes a sound for me. The definition of that, especially with a lot of the background being very, very similar in color and whatnot, is pretty tough. So that's always a concern for me. So I think that a guide dog would probably help me overcome that. The identifying limbs in the path. Again, a lot of times if a limb is similarly colored to the background, really, really hard to identify. And I am using my cane, even in nature preserve outdoor environments now, trying to work on those skills. With that being said, it's a lot of work, and so the seeing eye, or the guide dog more accurately, would take a lot of that stress load off, a lot of that exhaustion off, because especially when you get into rougher type of terrains, I found your hands, they cramp, your forearms, they hurt because you're working that cane. And yeah, it's like any muscles. The more you do it, the less it is. But there's still muscle fatigue that comes in after a while. I mean, I'm not sure that would ever change. So the guide dog would help that a lot. And I really do enjoy going to the outdoors and doing things outside and walking paths and things like that. It would definitely help identify traffic dangers. And cars are quiet. Even with the requirement on a lot of them to make a noise, a little speaker they put in, they're still pretty quiet. And especially those with that system that turns off the engine when they come to a stop. So even in like the Food Line parking lot, I do what I should do. I do the pause and whatnot, but they're super quiet. We were on a little mini vacation in Blue Ridge, and I did everything I was supposed to do. Stuck my cane out and whatnot, and my spouse is standing right beside me, and I was about to take a step, and car just zoomed right by. And the thing is, when I say zoom by, I mean it was super quiet, really, really hard to detect. My wife said the driver never looked anything but straight forward. So I guarantee you didn't see the cane stick out into the roadway, all that either. So the dog would definitely help with those dangers in the travel. I think it would also help with reducing fatigue while traveling on the sandy roads. A lot of my roads are literally sand. My neighborhood roads are sand and whatnot, and I travel with the cane through it. It gets stuck in the sand, jab you in the belly. It gets it's hard to drag across the sand. I will say the cane does a fantastic job of letting me know where the potholes and the ruts are, and I am going to say, to be fair here, I'm not sure if the guide dog's going to pick that up as well as the cane, or not, because they're trained to avoid significant injury. Me just slightly twisting an ankle in a little pothole, I'm not sure. I really don't know. So that one, it definitely is. I could see it helping though with the fatigue, man, because you pushing through that sand. You're pushing through the sand with that cane, and over time it wears you out, and so your walks aren't as long as what you would want them to be. You're not. I'm not out there walking 5 miles like I used to, because it's just it's beyond a lot of work. So I think the guide dog would help me extend my walks, which would help me physically. Obviously more exercise the better. So reducing fatigue from stressors while in stores. So it's the same kind of principle. I use my cane in stores. The cane does just fine in stores. It is definitely, I definitely come out of the store tired. And it's not as much about the physical work, I think, as it is the stress piece of it. People are cutting you off. They walk all over you, all that stuff. And while I think they probably still would, with the guide dog to a point, I think it would probably help. And if nothing else, it would increase confidence and decrease stress during the travel, which is the same principle for anytime I'm traveling for work. I think the guide dog would do that part. And then on the strictly personal enjoyment side of it, the nature trails are really difficult to travel. So many different things, from limbs, that you're walking into, to changes in the footing, to, is that a cliff to your left, or is that just a flat piece of ground? Can be hard to determine. And that's where I definitely think a guide dog would also excel, and probably help me to be able to get back and do more of the nature walks and nature trails with my spouse that we were used to doing. On the downside, and this is where I'm still struggling as to whether I'm going to apply or not. On one side, I really would like to apply for a guide dog, but on the other side, I am managing with my cane. I'm not falling. I mean, of course I'm going to, but I haven't been falling as long as I use my cane. So on the downside for the guide dog is expenses. Getting the dog, the costs are fully covered to be trained, which is awesome, and whatnot. But once the dog's at your home, you have to feed the dog. It costs money. You got to do the vets. That costs money. And then you've got the other concerns. I've actually experienced this without the guide dog, with Uber or Lyft. When I type in, once it picks the driver, and then I type in that I'm legally blind, so I'll be standing by the curb with a red and white cane, and I've got a black and yellow shirt on. I've actually had several drivers cancel the ride as soon as I type that in, like within 60 seconds of that message going over. Not everybody does, don't get me wrong, but I've had several cancel. I think that lends credence to what I've seen a lot of on YouTube with people with the guide dogs, where they have a hard time when they have the guide dog with them, getting Uber and Lyft, getting rides. A lot of times it shouldn't be the case, but it is. They won't take them. There's been a lot of people talking about where they don't even type it into the app, but the car pulls up and you can't get in, not with a dog. And they're like, I'm blind, and nope. And they drive off. So adding in the guide dog, from a downside perspective, might complicate some of travel while it'll make other parts of travel, much better. So there's a pro and a con, yin and yang, if you will. The other thing is, the daily work and maintenance needs, man. I mean, they're a dog. You got to keep working them every day so that their skills don't diminish in any way, shape, or form. And of course, maintenance needs. They got to be walked. They've got they got to do all the things you do. And that is, quite frankly, it's a concern. It's a maintenance issue, and it's not an upside. It's not like your personal house puppy where you're treating them as just a cuddle buddy pet. They're a working individual, so they do get treated differently for that. So at the end of the day, that's definitely something that's got to be taken into account. So that's the pros and the cons on the guide dog. I'm leaning heavily towards applying because there's definitely more pros than cons. But I'm not going to say that, my mind's 100% made up yet. So we'll see where that goes as time progresses. So at any rate, jumping in, got a few things to talk about from this week. Taking a look at the pictures that I've got posted up here. In the upper left of the screen is the little rubber ducky. So, Mr. Rubber Ducky there, I tested him out in the dog water bowls. He's food safe, so don't worry about that. I did a lot of research for buying a duck or two. Any rate, been working really well in those dog water bowls for me to tell the water levels and whatnot. So decided to move forward with, having him float in my coffee decanter for the Keurig. And I will say that's nice because now when I walk up, I'm not walking up and it having to be completely empty and a little light on the top for me to really know. As the duck goes down, I know when I need to throw some water in it. So it's the small stuff. But people who come over, of course they get a little chuckle out of the duck floating in the coffee water. But hey, if you can't laugh at yourself, you're being way too serious. So at any rate, moving on. The upper middle, upper right picture there. So, I talk a lot about being out on our little farm that we're building and, running the tractor, something I definitely enjoy, and I take it really, really slow. That's to say that it's not without risk. I'm legally blind. So at any rate, that was almost a bad day. In the upper right there, there's I don't know if you can tell, but that's a 2 foot tall footer. And that footer's not in the ground. It bells out at the bottom and tapers off at the top. So it's just literally sitting on top of the ground. And it's going to be the left side support to the barn we're building. It's for the awnings. And the tractor, I actually had gotten off and taken a look with my hand because it's hard for me to tell the distance between things, of course, and whatnot. So I had gotten off the tractor, taken a look with my hand, and I was literally about the width of my hand in between the retaining wall and the bucket, and because I was making a turn and just it just is what it is. It just happened, and so at any rate, the thing about that is that I've got to do something to shore up that wall to make sure that if I make a mistake after the building's built, we don't lose the we don't lose the awning because of it. Because at the end of the day, had I hit that with the bucket, it's very possible that I would have knocked the wall over. And, that would have cost us money right now, of course, and that's not good. But had the building been built and the awning's been attached, the awning legs, then I would have ripped the awning off the building, and that would have been much worse. So, this is one of those things where I didn't hit it. I go really, really slow, which is why I didn't hit it. But I don't have the peripheral, so I didn't see it coming, until I was almost literally on it. So I think I'm going to drop some 4x4 posts in the ground on both sides of it, put them in some concrete for the potential that I might someday make a boo-boo go a little too far. Throw a couple of runner boards on the outside edges. That way I'll hit the board before I'd hit the footer wall there. And again, do I think I'll hit it? Well, no, but then again, you never think you're going to make a mistake until you've already made it. So I think I'm going to shore that up a little bit because that could have been really, really bad. So at any rate, moving on. Down in the lower left, middle, and then moving across, basically all the way across the bottom. We did a little mini vacay up to Blue Ridge, which was freaking awesome. A little quiet cabin. It had Wi-Fi, had internet, but just a little quiet cabin. But the sitting area was literally suspended over the creek a little bit. It's a little sketchy for me with the stairs and whatnot, but I used my cane, as you can kind of see in the middle bottom. I used my cane. I got all the way down to the bottom. The loose rocks were a little challenging, but I just took the time, took it really, really slow, and that worked out okay. It was beautiful, just to listen to the creek, and just to slow down. It was really nice, but it got cold, so ended up building a fire off to the right there. And again, I'm blessed to have the level of vision that I do have, and quite frankly, if that changes over time, I'll be blessed for other reasons. But at the end of the day, the fact that I don't have the peripheral, and the fact that that I can make out though, what's a rock, what's a tree. I may not be able to see the bark on the tree, until I get up super, super close. But the fact that I can make out enough definition to know what's a pine tree, what's an oak tree still, things like that up to a certain amount of distance, can still make a fire, super blessed with all those things. And again, the biggest thing that I keep repeating, and I'm going to say again, is, being visually impaired, being, legally blind or whatnot, you can do it. There are obviously there's certain things that might not apply to, i.e. driving a car. You shouldn't do that because you're risking somebody else's life. Bottom line. Could I get behind the wheel of the Jeep and make it to the convenience store and make it back? Maybe. Is there a strong possibility that some kid I wouldn't see and that would end in a catastrophe? Probably. So no, I can't drive. That said, you can do most things as long as it's thought out. You just do it differently. When I was younger, that retaining wall conversation on the farm, man, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. And in fact, the tractor would be in high gear, which I've actually never put it in high gear. I don't know how fast it could go. I'm in snail space, and I'm going to probably keep it there. I am curious what the high gear does, but honestly, it would be a bad idea. So where I'm going is, when I was younger, I wouldn't have thought two things about that retaining wall. Now that I'm legally blind, and I should have thought about it. I should have. but it's a big freaking concrete wall, But I didn't think about the fact that my peripheral may not catch it because it's not there anymore. And so until I swung the tractor and it came into full view and I wasn't turning my head enough, that I would not realize it's there. It's one of those things where, does that mean that I can't run the tractor? No, it means that I got to figure out a better way to do things out with that. So now, okay, I got to protect the wall. I'm going to put some 4x4 posts in the ground. I'm going to run some boards around the edging. That way, worst case scenario, as slow as I'm going, I'm going to hit the board, stop the tractor long before I hit that wall. Also, having the 4x4 post in the ground with concrete, that wall is going to be supported all the way around. And so the likelihood of me, knocking that wall over and taking out the awnings is very much diminished. Could it happen? Well, yeah, it could. I mean, could have the bucket up in the air and just take the awning legs out. That means that I'm going to try and stay further away from that area when I'm running the tractor, and or going to be extremely slower than turtle slow when I'm around it. Doesn't mean I can't do it. Just means I got to think about it and do it different. And that's the thing I keep reminding myself, and my encouragement to anybody watching would be, when you say, I can't do that, other than something that, is going to hurt others, like driving, okay? You really, really can't do that. But anything else, stop for a minute and go, can I just do it differently? Is there a way? Or can I not do it? Am I going to hurt myself or others, right? And I will tell you, at least for me, and everybody's different. And this journey, that's the hard part for this visual impairment stuff. It's different for everybody. I will say, though, some things are much, much harder. Some things are slightly harder. But in the end, I really haven't found anything other than driving that I just cannot. When I first go, I can't do this, I stop and go, no, that's defeatist talk. What could I do differently? Regardless of time or anything else, what could I do differently to where I can still accomplish this? And I've been able to find a way so far. And you can too. But also be okay with the items that you find that you really can't. For me, so far, that's driving. And that's tough. It really is. But my biggest challenge with that is keeping my type A frustration under control. Well, my spouse is driving me around. She's not as comfortable driving as I used to be when I could drive. But also realizing that you got to give yourself and you got to give others a lot of grace with this. And that's probably the biggest point I could make is take a breath, give yourself and give others grace. All right. Well, on that note, I guess we're going to go ahead and call it a good day. And, quite frankly, let's just keep smiling and keep rolling, and let's try and make it a good day, make it a good week. Y'all be good out there. Peace out, Girl Scout.